Hello everyone and welcome to the next edition of Fresh Start Live. I am joined today by the lovely Lara Doherty, who I have known for a little while now actually, who is a motivational coach and also a vision coach. And today Lara is going to talk us through how to do vision boarding, which I've actually done one of Lara's vision board sessions, and they are brilliant. And in fact, I have mine here in case anybody, in case you ask me, Lara, I still have it up every day.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, I wanted Lara to kind of share her story as well, because I know that you've been through your own turbulent breakup, and that's really led you on a journey to now become what is a brilliant motivational coach. And Lara is so qualified on kind of neurolinguistic programming and psychology and how the mind works and how you get the best out of people. She's got an absolute wealth of knowledge and experience, and is just an absolute joy to work with. And I know that personally from the stuff that we've done in the past. So Lara, firstly, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's such a lovely introduction.
Oh, it's very well deserved.
Thank you.
Every time I have a conversation with you, I always come away feeling so much more positive and just ready to take on the world. So I hope that everybody's gonna get that today as well. And also sharing the vision boarding, which I personally still really do every day, and I know the benefits of it. So it'd be really great to get to that. But before we do, I'd really love you to just share with people your own personal story and your own personal journey, which I know you said you're happy to talk about, but really kind of led you on this path. So you can understand kind of where you've come from.
Okay, so I suppose it's really twofold. My journey is really, the reason why I'm where I'm at the moment is for two reasons, I think. During my kind of very varied career, I had a sort of a very good upbringing, went to some lovely schools, but I did go to a particular school that was, I was very creative, so was put in a kind of a creative box, but they didn't really know what to do with me. And it was kind of, it was very academic school. But coming out of that school, I was led in no particular direction. And I think from starting my kind of career in that way, I kind of fell into careers throughout my life. And that was I worked in banking, I've worked in concierge, I've worked in digital marketing, and all of those industries have been really fascinating and amazing. And weirdly, I remember doing a Myers-Briggs test years ago, and it said coach, journalist and nurse, but I didn't take any notice of it. And weirdly, isn't that weird that I'm now a coach and I've just written my first book? So I sort of went through life kind of having these amazing career trajectory, falling into different careers, was very good with people, so was always a kind of relationship manager, senior level, looking after teams, but I never really set myself goals, or kind of really thought about my future. And so when in 2017 I was coming out of the end of a relationship, and that relationship I don't talk about very often, because it was actually an emotionally abusive relationship. I'd met him when I was 40, and I'd been through a period of sort of 6 months of first period of my life, depression. I'd sort of got to 40 and thought, oh my God, I don't have kids. And I basically was a workaholic, and hadn't really focused on me and my kind of relationships. So I suppose when I met him, I was at a bit of a low point. So I was vulnerable. And I think looking back on it now, he kind of preyed on that a little bit. And so we had this relationship where, previous to my depression, I'd been this kind of confident, very successful individual, but actually slowly he just knocked my confidence, and he would very much be, putting me down a lot. So he had 2 children, so I kind of felt like I had a self-made family, and that bit was great, and the kids were fantastic. But the longer it went on, the more I lost the individual who I'd been. So we were on a holiday. It sort of came to a point where, and I knew, I didn't see my friends so much. In fact, I didn't see my friends for a couple of years because there was a horrible situation where we'd stayed for a weekend with them, and everyone had fallen out, and it was all a nightmare. So I knew I needed to kind of get out of this relationship. So to cut a very long story short, I got out of that relationship. I did have to go to court in the end because he was very controlling and manipulative. But I did get out. And in 2017, I got out of that. It was actually the end of 2016. I got out of that relationship. And I decided I didn't want to ever be in a situation like that ever again and be that low or vulnerable. So I kind of made a promise to myself that this would be the point where I kind of took control and changed my life, which I did. So the start of it was reading an amazing book by a guy called Hal Elrod, Miracle Morning. So I was very overweight. I was drinking a lot, eating too much, basically my whole life was really unhealthy. So that book basically put me on this amazing health kick in a way. I had a morning routine. I stuck to it. I lost 3 dress sizes that year. I did a half marathon. I basically started walking, started running, and started doing literally, I would type into Google, I remember it. I would type in, I feel stuck, or I feel woolly. How do I basically get out of this feeling of like being stuck and wanting to change my life? So all these things would come up, like Tony Robbins, Maria Forleo, this guy called Jake Ducey I used to follow. I've got a record of all the YouTube videos I watched around that time. It's really interesting to see. So everything that was kind of motivational, so that when I got up in the morning feeling, great, because I'd done my morning routine, but it took a lot of effort to sort of get out of this horrible stuck feeling. And all these people were talking about vision boards. Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, Maria Forleo, everyone. I was like, what are vision boards? So that year, January, I'd started this routine, lost all the weight, done my half marathon in September. And then around that time, I read an amazing book by a lady called Christine Kane, The Complete Guide to Vision Boards. And I read that book from cover to cover. I then made my first vision board. And that is literally where everything changed even more. Obviously, physically I changed. And I was starting to change mentally because of the books that I was reading. I was literally drowning myself in self-development. And then I made my first vision board. There was a picture of me in the middle of that board. Represented, it wasn't actually a photograph of me, but it was somebody public speaking, and that's always been my biggest dream, to kind of overcome my fear of public speaking, to be able to stand in front of people and actually talk confidently, because I'd had a situation at school where it kind of knocked my confidence. Anyway, so that then led me on to working with a mindset coach, and literally 4 months from creating that vision board, I was running my first vision board workshop. And literally my life has honestly changed just amazingly and incredibly over the last, 3.5, coming up to 4 years since I ran that first workshop, and I've been pretty much running them on a regular basis, mainly monthly. Through lockdown, I've really I took them online. Never thought they'd work online. So yeah, I mean that is really the story. My life has completely changed, and I've you know, I suppose opportunities and possibilities have come to me from, and I think vision boarding just lets you dream. And I've kind of, for the first time making that vision board, I started putting myself first at the top of my to-do list, and put dreams on all the different boards that I've created, and they've all, you know, it all happens. And I now know that there's a lot of neuroscience behind how vision boards work, and the best thing that ever happened to me. And actually now I feel the relationship is probably the best thing that ever happened to me, that breakup, because actually it kind of pushed me to change my life. So it's a real positive.
When you can look back and see a catalyst for change that was really painful at the time, but you can see the benefits of it, as you say, that you're reaping the benefits now, that had you have not had that, you wouldn't have necessarily done the things that you've done, experienced things you've experienced, and you know, gone on to help others in the same way. That's brilliant. And also the fact that you went through your career, I think, is really interesting, because I think so many people do this, and I did the same. I had a really successful corporate career before going down the coaching route, but it's something I fell into. I was good at it, but it wasn't setting my world alight, and I never, because I couldn't work out what that setting my world alight thing was. And I think until you really focus on what it is that I actually want from my life, and then, but don't get so fixed on how you make it happen, but more the end goal of what you want to happen.
Exactly.
So open to the journey, that actually allows you to kind of then really reap the rewards of putting in the work in the right areas, as opposed to just going with the flow and moving from job to job and meeting someone. Okay, now we're going to get married. Now we're going to have kids, and not stopping to question yourself at any point. What do you actually want? And that's what I think so amazing about the work that you do, Lara, and the vision boarding, is that you stay focused and true to what it is you really want. That does allow you to put yourself, as you say, at the top of your to-do list, and keep really focused on, this is my life, I'm the only person who I have to answer to, and I'm responsible for the outcome. So, you know, I think that that's so empowering, because I think so many people think and feel on a daily, and regardless of whether you're going through a separation or divorce, just in general, feel that life kind of has this momentum that we have to keep up with, and that decisions and outcomes aren't our own, and we don't have a choice, and actually we all have a choice. And you know, it is kind of having that focus and owning that. And I think this is a really fantastic exercise to really keep you on that path. So it's amazing, and it's so, thank you so much for sharing your story, because I know you don't talk about it very often, about what you experience. And you know, obviously that was incredibly painful at the time, and it's amazing to hear you sit here and say, actually, without that catalyst, that painful relationship that I got out of, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. Because I think, you know, obviously a lot of people who will be listening to this are at the early stages, or halfway through in the middle of a divorce, which may not have been choosing, or it may be they're choosing off the back of the fact that the relationship has gone really sour. So you know, hearing from someone like you who's been through it and has experienced kind of some of the worst of it, to say, actually, you know, this is me on the other side.
Totally.
What is it, do you think, that made that change in you, that kind of was like, this is it, I've got to do something here? What was that? Can you remember that moment? I know you said it was on holiday when you were like, this is
well, I mean, it was a really horrible situation on holiday. We're on this gorgeous holiday in Italy with his kids and friends of theirs, his mum, his sister. And it was just the sister, you know, on the first night I had an argument with him and then went home. And I mean, it was just, you couldn't make it up. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And then he basically shouted at me, said I'm not even going to repeat it now, but he said it in front of the kids, the C word, the F word and the C word to me in front of the kids. And at that moment, I just knew that everything he'd ever said to me before. I mean, he'd been pretty bloody awful to me. But that was like the fact that he could say that in front of children as well was abusive. And it was the first time I'd really realised. I mean, I knew what he was like, but I just thought, no, I can't do it. That is literally it. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
So if that hadn't happened, then yeah, I would just, I don't know, would I've carried on for a few months after that? I don't know. But we came back from that holiday, and I knew at that point I'd made that decision. And it still took me 10 days to get up the courage to say, I want out. And yeah, anyway, that was, yeah.
Wow. It's interesting, isn't it? Those moments in life where you just have the way a decision's made and suddenly there's clarity where there's been fog.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, now I have to act upon it. And although usually we make a decision and we don't act straight away, usually there is a period of, I've made the decision, but now I've got to put in place what happens next.
Yeah.
And that's kind of human nature. But it's interesting. I just think those moments in life that are completely life-changing, that in that moment, that was it. You were done. Yeah. And in that moment, your whole life changed.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And for anyone watching this, I think, when you're a woman in that kind of situation, this man was very controlling. And now I know that there's a name for it. It's called gaslighting. So they just wear you down with their words, and they just take all the confidence out of you. And if there's anyone watching this that has any inkling that is what was happening to them, they really need to reach out to someone. And there is, now I know, there's a domestic abuse helpline that I should have been in touch with, really, but I didn't know it was available at the time. I suppose I was so blinkered to what was happening with me. I didn't think what I was going through was domestic abuse, but actually it was.
Yeah.
So please, don't put up with it.
No, it's interesting, isn't it, as well? I think our expectations and what we assume to be normal are, in kind of based on our own experience of what we, I went through a lot of arguing with my ex-husband and just assumed that was kind of normal.
Yeah.
To argue to that degree, to that as frequently. And actually that's a lot to do with the fact that I grew up with parents who, divorced when I was 2, but they weren't able to have a functioning co-parenting relationship where they didn't argue.
Yeah.
And, even, my mother's relationship with my stepdad was quite a volatile one. So to me, that wasn't really unusual. And I think I went along with it for a lot longer than a lot of other people who wouldn't have grown up around so many arguments.
Yeah.
And assume that was just normal behavior. And it's only, as you say, when you kind of go, someone else says it to you, or you have a moment where you step out and go, hold on, this isn't normal. This isn't what I want. But, you can normalize any behavior, I think. And I think so often we think domestic violence is only physical violence and not the emotional and the mental side. And obviously, people are talking about it more now, but I think a lot of people have kind of assumed that, if I'm not black and blue, or they haven't, they don't hit me, then it's not abusive. And actually that's, it's not the case. And people do need to get, help and support. And there is support and help out there.
Yeah.
And so, so if you are in that situation, then please do, reach out. Or
talk to Samaritans, talk to, women's domestic abuse charity, etc. Or friends. Well, actually, men, it is for men and women. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a lot more
common. Happens to everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so then obviously you've gone on to discover the wonderful Tony Robbins that I discovered too, and then do your vision boarding. So I know you're going to actually take us through a little bit about how vision boarding actually works and what it's about. And I know you've got something to share with us. So I think I've opened up the sharing.
Yeah, I'm not going to share an awful lot on kind of slides, but I'd love to talk about kind of vision boards more than anything. So obviously we've seen your vision board.
Yes.
And I've now I've created a board every day, but I also have one for my business. So so shall I just kind of,
yeah.
What I'd love to do is just take somebody through, if anyone's ever if they thought about making or creating a vision board, just take you through a little bit about vision boards. What are they and how do they work? So a vision board can pretty much, it's a board of any size. You can even have a vision board. I was thinking about this the other day, vision board in a heart shape, or you could basically cut your vision board into any shape. But normally my boards are from A3 size up to about 20 by 30 inches. And I use, at the moment, trying to be sustainable. I used to use foam board, but I actually use an old either Amazon box or ask your local supermarket for a box so you can cut it up. So it's basically a board. It could be a pin board. It could be a bit of foam board. It could be on a bit of paper. But basically, you're creating a board cover. It's going to be covered with pictures, words, and phrases of all the things that you want to achieve over the next year. So when I'm running a workshop, my whole process is it's quite a lengthy process. I now split it into two. I used to do a long 5-hour workshop, but now I do, it's usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours for the first part of the workshop. And then the second part is we do a visualization technique, and then we all present the boards. So the first part is really getting clear about what you want to achieve over the next year. So normally I send a pre-exercise, which is basically asking you, asking you to really dream, like what are the 2 or what are the 3 big dreams that you would like to achieve over the next year? So that's one of the questions, but there's a number of different questions, which then starts you thinking, probably questions that you've never asked yourself, starts you thinking about what you really, really want to achieve over the next year and even beyond. So that can be quite challenging for some. Some of the questions can be quite challenging. But what it's doing is it's delving into your subconscious, because you may never have asked yourself those questions before. It's a really interesting process. And it is I would say, when people do that exercise, to really kind of sit and contemplate and really think about the answers to those questions. And also there's the last question on that exercise, I call it my Start Dreaming worksheet, is around purpose and do you know what your purpose is in life? And I think that's a really important and very key thing to know. To have purpose means that you know where you're going and you have kind of direction in life. So the pre-exercise is really important.
Yeah, and actually just to that point as well is something that people often don't talk about is that, as you say, is their purpose, or it's kind of spoken about and it's kind of seen as something that's sort of a bit out there or a bit woo-woo. But actually, if you come back to human needs psychology, we have basic human needs that we're all trying to meet at any one time, and one of them is contribution, it's fulfillment. And everyone wants to be happy, everyone wants to be fulfilled. That's the pursuit of happiness is basically what we want to achieve in life. And actually, if you don't know what it is that is going to make you fulfilled, or you don't know what your purpose is, that completely undermines your confidence in every area of your life. And it's not to say that your purpose is always the same either. These questions, even if you thought about them when you were younger, about what you wanted when you left school, or those big those big life stages and those big moments, and you had plans when you got married, or that you wanted to start a family, or you had this kind of plan, but then things are sort of, again, as we were saying earlier, sort of snowballed.
It's about drifting. And
you've forgotten to
drifting with no plan.
Yeah, and especially coming out of a relationship, I think, when you need to reevaluate who you are and what you want for your life and your family going forward, and your own self-identity, because you will have taken on a kind of a role of being a partnership. And it's really reestablishing that, as you did when you came out of your your relationship, Lara, and as I did coming out of my marriage as well. And that's really when I got into the coaching, you know, same as you, that was my catalyst for change, was the end of the relationship and what I want to do next. And it is that self kind of identity piece, I think, which is where vision boarding, you can do it anytime, and I think you need to always be doing every year, to be honest, and always staying but especially at a time like this when there is so much change and so much uncertainty, and I think people often think that divorce and separation being some kind of end, but actually it's a beginning as well. You've now
it's an opportunity.
Exactly. And I think sitting down and asking those questions, what do I really want, what is my purpose, what makes me happy, what, you know, what do I want to be, do have, you know, is so powerful. Even just to figure that out gives you such clarity, which at a time when you don't really have a lot of clarity, because it can feel like everything's sort of shifting sands. You know, even that part of the exercise I think is massively powerful.
Totally. So that exercise is key. That is completed about 5 days before the actual workshop, and then essentially we go through a process, and I call it my 12 steps to change. So which starts from intention, like deciding that you've made that decision, you want to change your life. And that's turning up, that's paying for my workshop. That's actually reading all about it and deciding, yes, actually I do want to make a lot of change in my life. So starts with intention. Then it starts also thinking of, you know, sharing your story a little bit. So we do have a within my workshops, we all kind of talk about where we're at. And obviously I've got my story, and I think that makes people think, well, actually that's okay, because you've been through all of this kind of stuff. Everyone then shares where they're at.
It's cathartic, isn't it?
It's really it's really cathartic. Well, exactly. And everyone absolutely kind of absolutely everyone's in the same place.
Everybody has a story.
Everyone's got a story, and a lot of the individuals who come on my workshops are very similar, and they all kind of want the same things. They want that kind of happiness.
The beauty of it, and actually that's how you and I have ended up staying, you know, as friends and even kind of colleagues in a way, although we're in two different businesses. You know, and support each other professionally, because we had that on that course that we did, is that sharing and the bond that we have built between ourselves, but also the other women that were also on that course is brilliant. And it's not something that has ever disappeared or dissipated in the time that it's been. And I think when you make those connections, when you are at a place, particularly when you are feeling vulnerable, it's so powerful to just know that you're not on your own, and you have that sense of support and camaraderie and you know, inclusiveness, especially at a time when, as I said, when you are feeling vulnerable and potentially you have lost friends or pushed friends away or whatever, you know, through the situation that you're in. And that's another fear when people are getting divorced and separated, is that I'm the only one doing this. I'm going to lose my friends, I'm going to lose my social circle. And having people who know what you're feeling is so that you can be open and vulnerable with is so important.
And it could be that, you know, there is a variety of different scenarios. You know, it could be that you are coming out of a relationship, or your relationship's not working particularly well, or it could be that your career's, you know, going through a terrible time in your career, or empty nest syndrome. You know, it's a lot of different scenarios that we could all kind of fit into. But it's really that sharing at the beginning is lovely. And we have we're almost accountable to each other. And then we're sharing, you know, our boards at the end. So that's lovely. So I suppose with the whole 12 steps of change, it's basically starting with that sharing. It's kind of learning about vision boards, is doing the different exercises together. It's creating the board. It's then doing visualization technique. And obviously I talk about all of this in much more detail in the workshop itself. I then, there's a period of kind of, we do a little kind of calming moment, sort of a little meditation. It's just like a meditation. Nobody really needs to know how to meditate. It just gets your kind of brain and your mind calm before we then go through a journaling exercise. And that's basically, it's a massive brain dump, because we've all got these ideas and these dreams, but what I've found is we don't let ourselves write them down or want them. Well, we know we want them. We don't let ourselves have them because we're not putting ourselves first. So it's about literally writing down the first thing that comes into your head. And there's kind of no time limit on that as a group. And it's really that is a very special time, I think, is just allowing yourself the space and the time to want things. So what do I want to do with my life over the next year? What do I want to have of my life, have in my life over the next year? And who do I want to be? You know, who's that person that you are now, and how do you want to be this time next year? And that's exciting, because it's sort of, you can be anyone you really want to be. You just need to kind of almost get focused on that person that you actually want to be. Mm-hmm. And I talk about affirmations, which I've used a hell of a lot. When my confidence was rock bottom, I used affirmations, and they've been absolutely amazing. You know, it's just talking out loud. I do use the car a lot. So if I'm going somewhere, and I'm, you know, we all lack confidence sometimes, and I will just talk out loud to myself, because our brains have the tendency to think negatively, as you know. And affirmations are a big part of my life, is just saying things out loud that are positive, can actually rewire your brain. So I've talk about that. So when you've actually, well, okay, so you've done the exercise, and then we start basically flicking through magazines. This is an amazing process. It's very cathartic. We flick, I mean, you're smiling now. It's really funny. Yeah, so you just, when was the last time you sat and gave yourself the time and space to flick through magazines? And there is a special method to it that I use, and it is basically just flicking through, but you're letting your brain tell you what you need. And you will spot something on a page, and I talk about this in more detail in the workshop. You'll spot something on the page that resonates, and you kind of tear the page out, and then you end up with a big pile of pieces of paper from magazines. You cut them out, and then basically my system now is that you sit with them for a week, and you kind of keep on going back to it, really. And you might be in the shower and think, well, actually, I haven't thought of that, and actually I'm going to add that to my board. So you end up with a board with all of your, essentially, your goals, your dreams, your hopes, your desires, your aspirations for what you want to achieve over the next year, and who you want to be, and what you want to have in your life. And when you're completely sure that that is everything, and be quite specific about it as well. So say you want to start going to the gym, put a particular, you know, find the logo on the computer of the particular gym that you want to go to, or a picture of it. Get specific, put a picture of yourself in the middle. And then when that board makes you really excited and happy, and you're completely sure that that's where you want to place everything. I normally place everything in different sections. So health and fitness, career, business, family, travel, etc. And I'll talk about the neuroscience in a minute. Once you're sure of where everything is, and your board actually makes you really excited, then just stick everything down. And then you're going to be placing that board in somewhere where you see it every day. And I'm going to talk about the neuroscience. So basically, you're going to put it in either the bedroom, so you see it last thing at night or first thing in the morning, or you put it in your office behind your, like I've got behind your computer. Have it as a screensaver, have it as your wallpaper on your mobile phone. And so the way a vision board works, there's a particular, the base of the stem of the brain, there's something called a reticular activating system, RAS, and that's responsible for the way vision boards work. So basically, we have around 80,000 thoughts that come into our minds every day. And of those thoughts, 80% are negative, funnily enough. But what you're doing by creating a vision board and looking at it as many times of the day as possible is you are forcing your brain to have its attention to concentrate on all those pictures, words and phrases. Your brain will remember pictures 65% more than words and phrases. Just bear that in mind. But it doesn't matter if you've got words and phrases on your board. Both will turn up. So you're basically forcing your brain to have its attention on all of those things, essentially your goals. So, it's almost like you're imprinting that onto your brain so it remembers it. So even when you're in your car and you're not in front of your vision board, you'll be remembering sections of it. So you're almost changing the wiring of your brain and neuroplasticity by remembering it so many times. So every time you're kind of looking at it, you're basically pushing yourself to achieving all the goals and everything on that board. And I would say, just from experience, that and also from I did a last count, over 320 mainly females that I've worked with who've done vision boards. Pretty much everything happens on the board, and when things happen you can always replace it with another picture, but your brain is basically moving you towards achieving everything on it because it's seeing it every day, and it's just reminding you, and it's just the most amazing process. I mean, all those individuals and myself are proof of the pudding. It's just like it all happens.
Yeah.
And I don't say it all comes true, because there is neuroscience behind it. It basically, your brain is working for you and helping you achieve those things.
Yeah. Well, our brains are so phenomenal, and we don't
they really are.
hardly any of the potential that's within our brains. As you said, 80,000 thoughts a day, 95% of those are subconscious. 80% of them are negative. We are literally just repeating the same pattern and are completely wired based on, what's gone before. So you're literally recreating your future based on your past, as opposed to taking control of your future and going, no, this is what I want. And I'm going to focus on that. And
it's very much being in control.
And I mean, a really simple example, you pick a new car, you see it everywhere. You pick a baby name, you see it, hear it everywhere. Your brain has just because there's so much information to take in, it filters so much. But it's when you decide what you want your brain to focus on, suddenly those things start to crop up, and you start to notice them, and you start to see the opportunities, and the things start to happen for you, and you look for those moments and make stuff happening for yourself, and just put yourself back in control.
It is like a filter. Because your filter, it's a bit like another way to describe it. When you read a book, and there are certain things in that book that your brain will decide, or you'll decide what to remember. Hardly any of that book will you remember. So it's basically, actually, the vision, if you think about it, it's almost like, if you summarize that book and put it on a vision board, you'd remember it.
That's a good way of looking at it. And actually, visualization in general is so powerful, and getting the feelings associated, because our subconscious mind doesn't work. Actually, it doesn't speak English or any other language. It speaks in emotions and feelings, and that's what conditions our subconscious mind. So actually, when you have that vision board and you look at those pictures, and you can get the feeling of being in that life as that person with those things, that's when the real stuff starts to happen. And
I talk about visualization in the second session, and we do a visualization exercise, And that is, yeah, definitely where you kind of read through everything you've written, look at your vision board, and then visualize yourself in a year's time. And actually going forward, you can then, when you're at home, I go through how to do a kind of visualization session, but it is all about exactly the feeling, is having that when you connect your vision board so much so that you feel the emotion of when you have achieved a certain thing. And that's really powerful, because that's almost like the icing on the cake. You've made the vision board, you then do visualization exercises, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and then that really embeds that with that feeling and that belief that of course I'm going to achieve that goal. Of course I am. That really embeds that kind of, embeds it in your brain. Amazing. Sorry, I interrupted you. Talking
and actually, that's, as you say, that is the science behind it. And I know that, a lot of this stuff, people talk about manifesting and putting it out to the universe and all the rest of it, and it all sounds very woo-woo. And I don't do woo-woo. I do facts.
No, I'm similar.
I have to back it up with, what's been proven, and neuroscience and vision boarding and neuro-linguistic programming and the stuff that Lara and I have covered today, and so much more, is all backed up by science, that this is exactly how your mind works, and it's understanding that and then using things like vision boards to really get the most out of it, so you can be back in control, because ultimately you are responsible for your own life and your own outcomes, and this is the way to make sure that those outcomes are the ones you actually want. So it's hugely powerful, and it's such a lovely experience. I've done your workshops, and I know I was smiling through the cutting and the tearing up the magazines and things, but the whole process from start to finish is such a gorgeous thing to do. And I think with mindset stuff, it can be hard when you're trying to tackle your own triggers, your own beliefs, your own kind of conditioning that you've built over the years from childhood, and you're trying to adjust and deal with that and face that, and especially at a time of massive change. This mindset stuff is hard. It isn't easy. If it was, everyone would be doing it. And it usually comes at a time when you really want to make a big change in your life, or a change has been sort of forced upon you. And so you're feeling vulnerable and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, and it's the discipline of keeping that up that's also really hard, and keeping that momentum and that motivation. But this particular exercise is such a breath of fresh air in that process. It's such a lovely thing to do, and to focus on, and actually going back to the vision board. I look at my vision board every day. It's in my office. As I said, it's right here. I literally have it there, so I can see it every day when I'm working, and never forget, where I'm going and what I want. And that's actually the loveliest part of the whole process. So it's definitely the bit that people should do. Lara, you've also, I know, talked about kind of your this and the other techniques that you use, because it's not just vision boards. I know that you're really big into your morning routine, and really kind of setting yourself up for the day, and that's all in your new book, isn't it, that you just published?
Oh, I know, it's so exciting.
Which was also on your vision board.
Yes. So I never, that's another thing, I never ever thought I would write a book. Didn't think I had it, I could do it, or had one in me, or whatever. Anyway, it ended up on my vision board, and this anyone who comes on my workshop will know this. Things end up on your board that you're least expecting, you didn't know you wanted. And actually that happened to me, and it happened to another lady called Rebecca Newnham. She won't mind me talking about her, but she didn't know that she wanted to write a book before she came on my workshop, and it took her a year. She's published her first book, and I mean, the book ended up on my vision board when did I created it? In, I think it was February, actually. And then I had an idea. I'd done a kind of webinar for a networking group called the Inspiration Space, and I sort of had an outline of somebody said, how do you keep yourself motivated? So it's basically it's all my tools, strategies and tips of how I kept myself motivated at the most difficult time of my life. And it's everything it's everything I've learned over the last, what is it, 4.5 years now. And it's been a joy to write, because it's all been in my head, all these things. So the book is basically what I needed when I was rock bottom in the beginning of 2017, end of, coming out of that relationship. And instead of doing all those Google searches, that book will enable someone to basically get out of floundering at sea, feeling stuck, feeling like so low that they don't know what to do with themselves. And it is my hope that it's like it's like a pocket companion. Nice. To keep yourself motivated at the most difficult times. And actually I say, it's a book to have by the loo, carry in your backpack, carry in your handbag, because when you're feeling that kind of unmotivated, like we all do, at times where you're beginning on a Monday and you just don't feel motivated, so you just open a page and get an idea. And a lot of there's loads of science in it. It's all referenced. I talk a lot about hormones, dopamine, all the feel-good hormones. And it's almost like a cocktail. Like if we know how to produce those hormones, then we can kind of get ourselves out of the funk. And it's it's basically using all those tools, like even going for a walk for 10 minutes will make you feel much better. Drinking water, keeping your brain hydrated, music, actually listening to music is great for kind of motivation. And there's science behind it. Having a plant on your desk, having flowers in your home, making your home declutter. There's loads. So it's all basically in one place, and it's all the things that I learned about and are really passionate about. And I just, it's the book I needed when I was rock bottom. So I can't wait. It's called The Mighty Book of Motivation Magic.
Excellent. And where can you find it?
Well, it is going to be printed the end of this month. But keep an eye on my website, which is www.themotivationclinic.co.uk. I'm just about to put a page up there for pre-sales.
Brilliant.
So yes, it'll be, I'm so looking forward to it coming out.
And actually, Lara and all the other experts are going to have an experts page on my website as well, so you can link back to Lara if you want to book or book a session with her to do the vision boarding. You do groups as well as one-to-one and families as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the other thing, is you don't have to think about vision boarding just in the sense of you as an individual. Through the work that I've done with couples, as well as blended families, vision boards are a brilliant exercise to really bring a family together and look at what they want as a family and as a unit. So it's not just one-to-one individuals. You have to think about this. You can think about it as, or even gift it to someone who is perhaps trying to blend their family, or trying to get over their divorce, or trying to repair their relationship, because it's not always just about relationships that have ended. It's always about those who are trying to kind of really stay focused and see if they are wanting the same thing as well. They can be used so many different, as Lara says, it's not just about when a relationship ends. There's loads of different reasons to use a vision board. So all of that we'll link off, and I'll make sure everybody has the links. And obviously when the book does release, then I will put a note out on social media so you guys get and in the newsletter as well, so you guys get told that it's available. Lara, thank you so much for talking to us today and sharing your really personal story, but also the vision boarding, which, as I said, I've done and I still look at every day, and I found it really, really helpful and really useful, and I know that a lot of my clients have as well. So thank you very, very much. And
lovely. Thank you
for joining us. We'll speak again very soon. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.